So welcome back. So we are discussing now the repatriation of relatives from detention camps in northeast Syria. And we do have on the line this morning, we do have Mr. Darius Figuera. Mr. Figuera, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Morning.
Yes. Mr. Figuera, what are your concerns?
Well, there are multiple concerns. The primary concern is that leaving them where they are, and the reality is that we also have nationals in Iraq. Leaving them where they are is not a viable geopolitical reality for Trinidad and Tobago. The government has indicated that they are now in the process of repatriation. But repatriation raises the issue of rehabilitation and reintegration. You see, it is all well and good to speak of a terrorist threat emanating from those who will be repatriated someday. But to speak about a threat and you are not doing any research to understand the nature and terrain of the threat, that is just empty words and scaremongering. Because you must understand the threat in order for you to devise measures, instruments to mitigate the threat. And yesterday we celebrated 33 years of the jihad of July 27, 1990. And apparently we have not learned that if you don't understand the nature of the threat, you expose yourself to possible action. So just as in the run-up to July 27, 1990, when the state and the politicians who manned the state failed to protect the state, likewise, in 2011, 2012, when the migration, or as we say, the hijra of Muslims to Islamic State started from Trinidad and Tobago going to the Islamic State, the state once again failed to respond to the threat posed by that migration.
But Mr. Figuera, I want to be clear here and understand what you're saying. Are you saying that if these individuals that we're speaking about are repatriated, there could be a threat?
If you understand the nature of the discourse of the Islamic State and what about that discourse that motivated Muslims from Trinidad and Tobago to give up everything they had in Trinidad and Tobago, no matter how little, and migrate to the Islamic State, then you must understand that the only reasonable and realistic position you can adopt is that a potential threat exists. And you have enhanced the threat by leaving them abandoned in these camps since 2019. So the quicker we intervened as a nation, it would have been better for us and our security.
But a serious-minded person may say, Mr. Figuera, if there is a threat, then why doesn't Trinidad and Tobago leave them there?
Because it is not viable geopolitically. Because there is great pressure upon Trinidad and Tobago to repatriate our people. And that threat, that pressure comes from the United States. And if we want a license from the United States to buy Venezuelan gas and bring it to Train 1, so how then does it work out? Do you scratch my back and I scratch yours? So that is the reality. Geopolitically, it is not feasible. And in the case of Iraq, it is even worse. Because Iraq is a recognized state in the international community. its government is recognized. It is not like the case of the Kurds in northeast Syria. Why then are we procrastinating in providing the travel documents for Wahid and her children to be repatriated to Trinidad? Remember, as Wahid was sentenced to a prison term, her children spent the time with her in jail.
But Mr. Figueroa, you know how we Trinidadians are. We are going to say that we did not send them there, so why should we bring them back home?
Well, because the fundamental reality is the same attitude we adopted in 1990, and that is why all the material that was used to raid the Red House and to take the hostages was imported, smuggled through customs, stored up, hidden, and then released on the fateful Friday to attack the Red House, and nobody knew nothing what was going on. So we have a lousy record in dealing with these realities that emerge from our Muslim community.
But
so this time now we get realistic. These people are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. What are you going to do? Deny your obligations to the international community and leave them there and feel that you will not pay a price internationally?
And that's my other question. So do we have a discretion in the matter, you think?
No, we have no discretion, because they are our citizens, and it is duty bound on Trinidad and Tobago to repatriate your citizens, as other countries have done in the world.
But do you think, because if you're saying we have no discretion, it means that the repatriation, it is coming, it has to take place. So the question is, are we prepared? Do we have the expertise to deal with such an exercise when our citizens return home?
No, well, we have people who insist that they are experts. But the problem with these people who insist that they are experts is that they have no research depth amongst Islam in Trinidad and Tobago. They have no research depth. So they have never moved to understand what motivated Muslims of Trinidad and Tobago to leave and to embrace, most importantly, to embrace the discourse of Islamic State. So how can you rehabilitate and reintegrate when you don't understand what motivated this action? What aspect of the Islamic State's discourse that have so appealed to them that they packed up and they left? And many of them, the majority of them, left in secret. Many of them did not even want their parents to know.
So then, where do we get this expertise?
Well, I am available. I have written 2 books on specific Islamic incidents in Trinidad and Tobago. The Jihad of 1990 and the movement of Muslims to Islamic State. And that is part of a 5-book series on Islam. So anytime the government wants to tap into my expertise, I'm available. It's up to them. But you cannot devise a program of rehabilitation and reintegration, and you don't understand what motivated them to go. And you don't care to understand. So what we are getting from the government is a series of mixed messages of hard and soft. Remember, these children have been in these camps since 2019. We have to determine, we have to know their age when they were born to determine the impact of Islamic State socialization on them. So anybody who at the final battle of Islamic State at Bagus in 2019 was 5 years and older in 2019 has to be assessed to ferret out the impact of that socialization on them.
Are you then suggesting that when the repatriation exercise happens and individuals are brought back to Trinidad and Tobago, there has to be some sort of rigorous assessment, maybe counseling, maybe mediation? A number of things would have to be put in place, Mr. Figueroa.
Yes. It has to be a multifaceted process. A holistic, multifaceted, simultaneous process of rehabilitation. And the core, the linchpin of this entire process is the assessment. You must have assessment that is potently noted for its efficacy. And you cannot have people doing these assessments who knows, one, nothing about the Islamic State, two, nothing about Muslims in Trinidad and Tobago, and three, nothing about Islam, and especially people who are hostile to Islam, assessing Muslims. So that is the reality. You cannot fail in this assessment.
You feel that there is hostility, as you're saying, against the Muslim community in Trinidad and Tobago?
What we have is a tradition, especially after 1990, of the expectation of a repeat. That is what we have. People still continuing about doing it again, as if nothing has been learned and nothing has been put into place. And without the realization that time has flowed and the strategic terrain now is entirely different. So there is this fear, and then Islamic State came along and turned this fear into paranoia. Because Islamic State, by its record, must generate paranoia. So that is what we have to understand. So if we do not handle this rehabilitation purposefully and effectively, then we spin top in mud.
But I suspect there also has to be some educational element in all of this.
Yes, it's multifaceted, but everything hinges on the assessment. Because the assessment will draw out, and there are various forms and levels of assessment, various instruments you use to assess.
Now, I know that there has been some delay in the repatriation exercise. I know that that government had confirmed that there is a process, and it has been going on for a while now. What do you think are the stumbling blocks in this entire process?
Politics. Because other countries have been removing their people from the camps in northeast Syria. And if we want to understand how to do it, there are countries out there that you can certainly learn from. So there is no rocket science to repatriate your people. So you have countries now who were adamant they were not repatriating and now repatriating. So that is the reality. So all of the stumbling blocks listed, other countries continue to overcome these stumbling blocks and bring back their people. And incidentally, their contingents are much smaller than ours.
But do you think it is being handled in an urgent way? It is being seen as a priority?
My personal point of view is that the stumbling blocks are overblown to drag out the process. So what is cited as a serious problem, other countries overcome and move their people. So just simply go to these countries who we have diplomatic relations with and learn from them.
Yeah.
The French have just moved their people once again. We have an ambassador to France present in Port of Spain. Learn. The Canadians have started.
I see
and
that
these were
recently.
all naysayers before.
Recently, you penned a letter to the chairman of the Repatriation Committee. Has there been a response?
No, well, what I subsequently found out is that the letter is to be delivered and then they will wait on an answer. So the letter will be delivered either yesterday or today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the work of the Repatriation Committee? The work that they have been doing?
What we know, it has reached a stage now where they are asking for family members to come into them and to give biographies of their family who are in the camps. I found that very entertaining, because if you want to find out who are in the camps that are from Trinidad and Tobago, you simply go to the people who are in control of the camps. So you go to the Syrian Democratic Forces, you go to the AANES, which is the political arm and the administrative arm of the SDF, and you contact them, and they have all of that information. They are waiting on us. And if you say you have problems in contacting the SDF and the AANES, you can simply appeal to the United States of America to hook you up.
Is there any opportunity for this entire matter, which seems to be a very messy matter, a matter with a lot of tentacles and a lot of components? Are you optimistic that this will be settled anytime soon?
Well, my personal point of view on the whole affair is that please do not repatriate the children and the women, and you're not ready for the rehabilitation and reintegration process. So don't bring them back and then make it up as you go along when they are here and they are back. No, that will do even more harm.
So there has to be a more proactive approach to the entire matter.
Yes, it has to be integrated. I am begging, move for repatriation when you are ready with your process of rehabilitation and reintegration. Don't do it haphazard and disjointed.
Darius Figuera, it was a pleasure speaking with you this morning. Thank you very much for your perspective, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I'm sure that we will speak again sometime in the future. Yeah? So it's time for a quick break. We're coming back.